She was gone 8 minutes before I noticed the smell of her perfume still hanging in the hall. Vanilla and sandalwood. The scent she used to save for our anniversaries. Now it clung to the air like a joke I wasn't in on. Her overnight bag wasn't even zipped properly. That morning, she'd shoved it together like a checklist. Heels, makeup, chargers, something silky she never wore around me anymore. You know how girls are: wine, tears, gossip, she said. Like always, brushing my cheek with the kind of kiss you give a distant uncle at a funeral. And like always, I smiled, nodded, and watched her go. Then I went back inside and picked up the tiny recorder I'd bought 2 weeks earlier. I tested it. Battery lasted 10 hours. Sound quality clear. It was the kind of thing you find on a forum post titled, "Cheating? Don't confront. Confirm." I'd read that post at 2 a.m. with a sinking feeling in my gut. That same night I ordered it overnight shipping. So while she ran the sink to brush her teeth, I gently slipped the recorder under the lining of the middle zip pocket of her purse. Right under the sunglasses she only wore when she didn't want to make eye contact with anyone. Not that she noticed. She never checked that pocket anyway. And that night, after the silence returned, after the clock hit 10:42 p.m. and no "miss you" text came, after she posted a story of a blurry wine glass with the caption, "Finally breathing again," I plugged in the recorder. Before I hit play, I stared at the wall above the fireplace. A framed photo from Lake George. We were on a boat. She had her arm around me like she meant it. We weren't smiling, we were laughing. That photo hadn't felt real in years. Now I realized why. And if you're here reading, listening, then you probably already know what came next wasn't fireworks or screams. It was laughter. Shrill, high, expensive laughter. Then a voice said, "You're wasting your prime." More cackles. Then her voice, my wife's voice, popped into the center like a knife through fabric. "He's not a man. He's comfortable." I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I didn't cry. I just hit rewind. Played it again. Slower. Then another voice. "You're not his toy. Free yourself." Applause. Like they were toasting it. That's the thing about betrayal. It never starts with someone else. It starts with the moment they stop being afraid to say it out loud. If you've gotten this far and this story feels too familiar, it might be time to subscribe. More than 97% of people hear these stories and never hit that button. But the stories that follow, they come from the moments men like us stop staying silent. Support keeps the team digging deeper, keeps this going. I heard her laugh again, this time softer. Then she said something I wish I could unhear. "He wouldn't even notice if I left." And then, like a death sentence wrapped in silk, "Next month. It's happening." I paused the recording. My hands were steady. Heart? Not so much. She thought she'd get there first. That was her mistake. I listened to the recording 3 times that night. Not because I didn't believe it, because I did. Every word confirmed the suspicion I hadn't dared to say out loud. Her voice, distorted slightly by the recorder's tiny mic, was still hers. Still that breathy, performative tone she used when she wanted to sound vulnerable. The one I'd once fallen for. But there was no vulnerability in what I heard, just calculation. "He's not a man," she said, her words soaked in cheap red wine and groupthink. "He's comfortable." And that word, comfortable, hit harder than if she'd said I was cruel. Comfortable meant disposable. Like I was the free toothbrush they give you in a hotel bathroom. Useful until you get something electric. "You're wasting your prime," someone yelled. Probably Brooke. Brooke, the twice-divorced real estate agent with the wine gut and 3 failed Tinder engagements. Brooke, who once drunkenly told me I was too vanilla to even cheat properly. Then came Danielle. You could tell by the smug Midwestern accent. "You're not his toy, free yourself. Free yourself." Like I was a prison. A polite, fully furnished, tax-paying prison. The room clapped. No joke. Actual applause. Over a bottle of Pinot and a group consensus that husbands were optional accessories. "She's not talking about leaving," I whispered to myself. "She's rehearsing." And then quiet, like they were waiting. And my wife filled the silence with the kind of statement that tells you someone's already printed the map and packed the bag. "If it goes well this weekend," she said slowly, "I'll stage the split before the holidays. Do it clean. Stage the split." She made it sound like a marketing plan. Probably had bullet points and everything. 1. Remove ring. 2. Flirt. 3. Post photos of wine. 4. Play victim. Then the laugh again. Not her real laugh. Her performance laugh. The one she used when she wanted to signal how over me she was. He wouldn't even notice if I left. That part got quieter each time I played it back. Not because the volume changed, but because the rage inside me did. The first time I was stunned. Second time, I felt it boiling in my spine. By the third, it turned into something else. Not sadness. Not even anger. Design. Because here's the thing. When a woman plots her exit in front of an audience, she thinks she's the only one holding a script. She forgets some of us have been studying her lines longer than she's been rehearsing them. She thought she'd deliver the final scene. She forgot I build the stage. By the time I closed the file and unplugged the recorder, the plan had already started forming. Not revenge, precision. If she wanted to test how free she felt without the ring, I'd test how free she felt without everything else. She wanted to pretend I didn't exist. I'd show her what that actually looks like. The next morning, the smell of coffee reached me before her footsteps did. French roast, her favorite when she wanted to pretend everything was fine. She even hummed some upbeat 2000s pop song that used to play in her college dorm. She always reached for that era when she was lying. Nostalgia made the deception easier to swallow, I guess. Morning, she chirped, like the night before hadn't happened. She moved around the kitchen like a woman with nothing to hide. Hair brushed, robe tied just tight enough to hint without offering. She opened the weather app, squinted, frowned. Storm coming later, she said, sipping. Good day for a walk before it hits. I gave her a nod, said nothing, and that's when I saw it. Her hand. She was holding her cup with both hands wrapped around the ceramic like it was some cozy autumn scene, but her left hand lingered a little too long in my sightline, like a debutante posing for a ringless engagement shoot. The ring was gone. Just gone. No tan line. No apology. No mention. Just a subtle flash of unclaimed skin. She didn't fumble. Didn't make an excuse. She didn't need to. The silence was the excuse. I passed her the cream, careful not to let my eyes drop. But I felt it in my gut. That cold, nauseating twist that tells you the person across from you has already made their decision. They're just waiting for the right lighting to announce it. She stirred her coffee. I might head to the trail later. Clear my head. I wanted to laugh. Clear her head. As if it wasn't already a draft folder of breakup statements and curated sympathy posts. Instead, I leaned back in my chair and looked out the window. The clouds were gathering. You want anything from the store later? She asked casually, already reaching for her phone. Nope. All right. She stood, slid her mug into the sink, not bothering to rinse it, and grabbed her jacket. I'll be back in a bit. No kiss this time. No glance back. Just the door clicking shut with the sound of a decision being locked in. I didn't follow. I sat there, staring at the spot where her ring used to rest against porcelain. That little divot on her finger that had once meant something. I remembered the day I bought that ring. How many months I saved. How long I stared at her hand afterward, proud of what we were building. Now her hand looked lighter, freer, like the stories said it would. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that every quiet move she made, every fake smile, every accidental omission, was being logged. Not in some dramatic, scream-filled, plate-breaking memory bank. No, in a file, a growing one. Because restraint isn't weakness. It's preparation. She thought the absence of confrontation meant she was winning. But I wasn't avoiding the fire. I was waiting for it to spread. I was still sitting at the kitchen table when I heard the knock. 2 quick taps, 1 pause, then 3 more. Not the way she knocked. Not the rhythm of a stranger either. When I opened the door, it was her younger sister, Mia. Pale, lips pressed tight, holding her phone like it had burned her. She didn't bother with a greeting, just walked past me, eyes wide and guilty, like she'd committed a crime by showing up. She didn't sit, didn't ask, just turned, held the phone up to my face and said, low and firm, "You need to see this." I thought I was ready. I wasn't. It was a screenshot of a group chat. No names, just initials and icons. My wife's icon was a wine glass. Fitting. Message 1. This weekend I test the waters. Let's see how free I feel without the ring. Message 2. 2 minutes later. If it goes well, I'll stage the split before the holidays. Clean, no drama. He'll roll over, like I was a retriever that just needed a snack and a pat on the head. The worst part wasn't the language. It was the coldness, like I was a logistical hurdle. A fence to hop on the way to a brighter, single life where she could pretend the last decade didn't happen. Where I was just a placeholder for stability until she could secure a softer landing. Mia sat down then, finally, her shoulders hunched. I didn't know if I should show you, she muttered. I saw the messages by accident. She left her laptop open when she went to the bathroom. I saw the chat pop up. I didn't say anything. Couldn't. I was still staring at the word stage. Like this was a play, and I was the idiot clapping in the front row. Mia's voice dropped even lower. She thinks you're a doormat. There it was. Not the word I would have chosen, but the right one. Doormat. The kind of man who'd fund her lifestyle, tolerate her boredom, swallow her absence, and still mow the lawn on Sundays because it's what a husband does. I finally spoke. You told her you saw this? She shook her head fast. No. God, no. She'd ice me out so fast. She thinks I'm too young to understand real relationships. But I know what this is. I've watched it for months. Her eyes brimmed. You don't deserve this. You never did. She slid the phone closer. I emailed it to myself. Just in case. I'll forward it. I nodded once. You're not going to confront her? She asked. No, I said. Not yet. Her brow furrowed. Why not? Because I want her to think it's working, I said quietly. Let her believe the lie's still hidden. That I'm still the doormat. She looked uneasy. That sounds dangerous. Only for her, I said, and I meant it. Because now I knew it wasn't just carelessness or slow-growing resentment. This was choreographed. She wasn't drifting. She was executing a timeline. Her detachment wasn't emotional, it was strategic. The ring wasn't just off. The mask was. And behind it was someone who didn't think I had the spine to do anything but vanish quietly while she waltzed into her curated, rebranded life. But Mia's visit changed something. I didn't just suspect anymore. I knew. And knowing changes the rules. Confrontation is what she expected. Raised voices. Maybe a broken glass. A slammed door. That would have let her play the victim. Cry to her friends about the reaction. Twist the story until it looked like I was the one who unraveled. She could have made that version stick. Women like her always have a backup narrative on deck. But I didn't give her that. Instead, I called a lawyer. The kind of lawyer who doesn't advertise on billboards. The kind you find through a quiet referral from a client who'd been through the same hurricane. She listened, said very little, and then asked a single question. Do you want to disappear? Or win? I want her to look in the mirror when it's over and not recognize what's left, I replied. We began with the money. Savings, moved. Assets. Split. Shielded. Distributed into a trust in my nephew's name with a freeze clause she couldn't access. I changed every password. Closed the cards, opened fresh ones in accounts she'd never touch. And the joint account? I didn't empty it. That would have been too obvious. I left just enough in there to keep her from noticing. Like leaving the decoy piece in a puzzle. Then came the burner. $49 and anonymity. I used it to text her best friend, Ashley, the loudest voice on the recording. The same woman who encouraged my wife to test the waters. I knew Ashley's patterns. She was the kind who fed off chaos. Stir the pot and hide her hands. I messaged her. He won't last a week alone. She took the bait. Then it's time, she replied. No hesitation. Just eagerness. I recorded every message, every keystroke. Saved it all. Backed up 3 different ways. She thought it was a conversation. It was an affidavit. That night, while my wife showered, I combed through her office's HR policy. Found the document I remembered reading months ago. The one buried in the employee manual under Conduct and Professional Relationships. Paragraph 4, Section D. Romantic or intimate relationships between staff and direct or indirect superiors must be disclosed immediately. Failure to do so may result in immediate suspension or termination. I made an anonymous call. Voice masked. Language precise. Senior staff member. Ongoing relationship with a subordinate. Photos available. Recordings too. No names for now. Just know. It's happening under your roof, and it's about to go public. Then I hung up. I wasn't bluffing. Because what she didn't realize was that the man she was seeing, her downtown condo partner, was a mid-level VP in the same company, and she had just earned a promotion 3 months earlier. Quiet, suspicious, barely earned. I'd raised an eyebrow at the time, chalked it up to luck. It wasn't. It was proximity. They thought no one was watching. That was their mistake. I was done playing defense. This wasn't about salvaging the marriage. That ship wasn't just sinking. It had already rusted through. This was about something purer. Control. She thought removing the ring meant removing my power. She thought I'd unravel. Instead, I was threading the needle, stitch by stitch, trap by trap, and she was walking right into it. She left earlier than usual that Saturday. Said something about brunch starting sooner this time, as if her little wine cult had suddenly discovered punctuality. Her tone was lighter, almost bubbly, like a woman about to do something bold and selfish and convinced the universe would cheer her on for it. Hair freshly blown out, nails painted in a color she used to joke was too single for a married woman. The bag she carried was different this time, sleeker, designer. Definitely not the overnight canvas tote she usually brought to her girls' weekends. And the ring? Still gone. I waited 10 minutes, then followed. Not close, not reckless. I tailed her like an old habit, never drawing attention. She didn't even glance in her rear view. Why would she? In her mind, I was home folding laundry, or checking the air filter, or whatever other harmless thing a comfortable husband did on the weekends. She parked in a metered spot outside a condo tower downtown. High-rise, quiet lobby. The kind of place with blackout windows and just enough foot traffic to make an affair feel discreet. I stayed across the street, behind a city maintenance van, angled just enough to keep a clear line of sight to the entrance. She waited on the sidewalk like a date, glancing at her reflection in the glass. Checked her lipstick, smiled. Then he came out, tall, polished, business casual with just enough designer flair to say, "I lead meetings, not follow them." He gave her the kind of smile you don't give a coworker, not unless there's skin involved. They didn't kiss, but the body language said everything. Familiar, intimate, practiced. She followed him inside without a word. I didn't need to know what happened in there. That wasn't the point. 27 minutes later, she came back out. Different blouse, hair slightly tousled, adjusting her bracelet. She looked energized, like she'd just hit a reset button on her ego. I took the photo then, not for proof, for documentation. Later that night, I forwarded the photos, chat screenshots, and audio recordings to her company's ethics board. Subject line, Compliance Violation Breach of Conduct Policy 4.d. Attached, timestamps, phone logs, a 3-paragraph anonymous summary. I even included a chart showing their corporate hierarchy, with their names circled in red. I didn't need to explain it. The evidence explained itself. But I wasn't done. I printed 2 envelopes. One went to her parents. The other, handwritten addresses, to the wives of her 2 closest, divorced besties, whose husbands were both still living in the same homes, clueless, while their wives spent weekends encouraging mine to detonate hers. Inside each envelope, a short note. I thought you deserved the full picture of what girls' weekends really look like. Check the last 6 months of hotel receipts and phone records. You'll find more than gossip. No threats, no bitterness, just context. Let them draw their own conclusions. I didn't hear her come home that night. Didn't need to. She walked in at 9:18 p.m. Quiet, not because she was hiding, but because she thought I was asleep. I was sitting in the dark living room. No TV, no sound, just the clock ticking behind me. She paused when she saw me. "Hey," she said, overly casual. "Thought you'd be in bed." I looked at her. Just looked. Not angry, not hurt, just aware. She blinked, unsettled for a moment, then forced a smile and walked past me to the kitchen. I didn't speak. I didn't move. She had no idea that by morning, the walls around her second life would start to shift, quietly, relentlessly, because the trap was no longer in motion. It was sealed. It started just after dinner, what she assumed would be another evening of fake small talk and cold distance. She walked in, set her keys down, kicked off her heels like nothing was wrong. Hair a little flatter than when she left. Lipstick worn. The usual. The house was still. She seemed to like that. Control lived in silence. No confrontation. No reaction. In her mind, she'd won that game weeks ago. I sat on the couch, flipping through an old automotive catalog I hadn't looked at in years. Just for show. I didn't even register the pages. My ears were tuned for one thing, her phone. It buzzed once. She ignored it. Then again. Then again. Her brows furrowed. She reached for it, squinting at the screen. I watched her go pale before she even unlocked it. Buzz, buzz. Then the phone rang. She didn't answer, just let it play out. I could hear the voice on speaker even from across the room. Need you to call me now. There's an emergency board meeting first thing tomorrow. They're saying there's evidence, photos, recordings, Jesus, Eliza. What the hell did you do? She killed the call. Stood still. Then it rang again. Different number. She sent it to voicemail. 2 seconds later, her screen lit up again. This time with a notification from her email. The subject line was long enough to read from where I sat. Compliance review. Immediate action required. She sat down without meaning to, right there on the tile by the kitchen island, as if her knees gave up before her brain could process what was happening. Another call. She answered this one, hand trembling slightly. Hello. It was Ashley, the same best friend who just days earlier had texted. Then it's time. Now she was sobbing, panicked. They fired Peter, she wailed. They got a letter, Eliza, with everything. And now Tom's wife has the screenshots. She kicked him out. What the hell is going on? What did you do? Eliza tried to speak, but Ashley had already hung up. The line went dead. Another voicemail popped up. This one from Danielle, another proud, divorced bestie. The transcript started mid-scream. You stupid, selfish idiot. You ruined everything. My husband saw the chat logs. You told me it was safe. You said no one would ever know. You. She swiped the message away like it would erase the contents. Her hand hovered over the power button, like she could silence it all by turning the device off. Then she opened her email. I saw her thumb freeze as she scrolled. Her breath caught. Her other hand slowly reached out and gripped the edge of the counter for balance. That's when she looked at me. You exposed me? Not angry, not indignant, just scared. A crack in the mask she'd worn so confidently. The woman who strutted into condos and toasted to freedom was now trying to breathe through a panic attack in her own kitchen. I didn't respond, just stood, met her gaze calmly, quietly, then turned and walked up the stairs without a word. Let her sit in the chaos she created. She stayed frozen in the hallway, still clutching the phone like it might start bleeding. Her world wasn't just tilting, it was being rewritten. In real time, and for the first time in months, she wasn't orchestrating the plot. She wasn't the director anymore. She was the one being edited out. By Tuesday morning, she was already wearing that 1,000-yard stare. The one you see in soldiers and gamblers right after they've lost a war they didn't know they were in. She hadn't slept. Not really. I heard her pacing in the hallway past midnight, talking in whispers to someone. Probably HR, maybe one of the few friends who hadn't gone radio silent yet. Every voice she used to brag about had gone mute the moment the emails landed. When the official letter came, she didn't even pretend to hide it. This is to inform you that you are being suspended, effective immediately, pending a full internal investigation into conduct violations related to our staff relationship policy. Her eyes scanned the page 4 times before she sat down. Then, like a reflex, she blamed everything except herself. It's a setup. Someone's twisting this, she muttered, voice shaking. Peter and I were discreet. This is just corporate politics. Someone's jealous of the promotion. They're using me as cover. Then she turned to me, eyes wild and too wide. You think this is about cheating? It's about office hierarchy. They've been waiting to throw me under the bus. I said nothing, just continued folding a shirt into my travel bag. And Danielle? You think she's innocent? She was bragging about flirting with that supplier for weeks. I'm the one being punished because I'm not married to an executive. I zipped the bag slowly, calm, measured. She followed me down the hallway, phone in one hand, the HR letter in the other. You think I'm the only one? Half the damn office is screwing each other. Peter just happened to be the unlucky one with an angry wife. I turned, handed her a folder. She didn't open it immediately, just stared like it might bite her. Then she pulled the flap and slid the papers out. Divorce. Notarized. Filed. Legal. She blinked at the date. You? Already filed? Her voice cracked. I told you, I said, stepping around her. You wanted freedom. She reached for my arm. Wait. Can we talk about this? You're just going to throw away 18 years over gossip and politics. No, I said, pulling away. I'm walking away from a woman who treated 18 years like a career stepping stone. She dropped to the floor, knees folded, back against the cabinet, holding the folder like it was some cruel joke. This isn't me, she whispered. They twisted everything. You don't understand the pressure I've been under. The way Ashley and Danielle kept pushing me. Take the promotion, Don't tell HR. Just enjoy your life. I kept packing. I didn't even want to be with Peter, she confessed suddenly, sobbing now. It wasn't about him. It was about feeling something again. I lost myself. I didn't mean to hurt you. I turned then, slowly. You didn't lose yourself, I said. You sold yourself, piece by piece. And now you're just upset that no one wants to buy what's left. She didn't respond. Couldn't. Not when her sister had already blocked her number. Her besties were dragging her name to save their own jobs. And the man she'd gambled everything on had quietly resigned Monday morning with a vague exit statement about unexpected opportunities. And her career? Derailed. Possibly done. She had freedom. Just not the kind she imagined when she slipped off that ring. She cooked. That's how I knew it was over. She never cooked unless she wanted to erase something. I walked in from the garage and the whole place smelled like rosemary chicken. My favorite once upon a time. Wine glasses already out. Candles lit. Soft jazz playing from a Bluetooth speaker that had dust on it last week. She even wore the blue dress. The one she knew used to stop me mid-sentence. Back when I still reached for her without thinking. She smiled when I stepped into the kitchen. That desperate, hopeful kind of smile that lives between guilt and illusion. I thought we could eat together, she said, voice soft, measured. One last time. I said nothing. Just hung up my keys. We sat. Not across from each other. She took the seat next to me, like we were still aligned somehow. She served the food, poured the wine, made a few nervous jokes that died in the silence. Then she folded. I was wrong, she said finally. I know that sounds weak and late and maybe even pathetic. But I let them twist me. Ashley, Danielle, even Mia in her own way. Everyone telling me I was missing out. That I could have more. That I deserved excitement. I nodded slowly. Let her continue. I thought if I could feel something different. Anything. It meant I was still alive, she whispered. But it wasn't you. It was never you. You were the constant. The steady. The only one who ever showed up. I looked down at my plate. Barely touched. The food might have tasted like the past, but I'd long since lost the appetite for memory. I miss the way you used to look at me, she said, voice cracking. Like I mattered. Like I was still worth something. You did, I said. Her eyes lit up. Then maybe you did, I repeated. That man? The one who looked at you like that? He's gone. She blinked. But that man got tired, I said, setting my fork down. He got tired of being rewritten in your head. Tired of coming home to silence. Tired of watching you replace honesty with curated distance. She swallowed hard. So that's it? You're just going to leave like none of this ever happened? I smiled faintly. No. I'm leaving because all of this happened. She reached across the table, hand trembling slightly. I tripped. Okay? I admit that. I tripped. I looked at her hand, then into her eyes. I never needed you to fall, I said calmly. Just to trip. She frowned. Trip on what? I stood up, collected my plate, walked it to the sink. Your own lies, I said without turning back. She didn't follow me to the door. Didn't cry. Just sat there, staring at the candle between our plates, like maybe if she stared long enough it would flicker out and take the memory with it. But I didn't slam the door. I didn't want her to think there was rage left in me. Rage is too close to care. Her fall wasn't loud. There were no headlines screaming her name, no public trial, no dramatic meltdown on a morning talk show. But in her world, the curated, filtered one she'd spent years polishing with hashtags and soft lighting, it was an earthquake. By the end of the third week, she was back in her childhood bedroom. The walls still had floral trim from her teenage years. Her parents said it was temporary, but she hadn't unpacked just one suitcase. She'd brought everything. The condo was gone. The lease terminated. The company had cut her loose with a vague HR line about policy violations and leadership restructuring. She applied for other jobs. Interviewed twice. Each ended the same way. Polite thanks, stiff smiles, no follow-up. Apparently, the industry had a longer memory than she thought. Her name didn't make the papers, but it sure circulated on Slack channels and private forums. Risky hire. Ethics flag. Keep your distance. Someone even started a Reddit thread that trended for 2 days. Office affairs that killed careers. Her initials were there. So were the screenshots. And the condo address. She called a few friends. Most went to voicemail. The rest gave her the same answer in different tones. Can't be associated with this right now. As for Peter, the man she gambled on, he vanished. Rumor was he moved cities, left his wife, lost his pension, started over somewhere with no LinkedIn footprint. The final text he sent her, before blocking her, was one line: "You weren't worth what this cost me." She stopped wearing makeup, started checking her phone less. Her mother said she was getting help. Her father just said nothing. And me? I never looked back. I left the state 2 weeks after the divorce was finalized. Quietly purchased 12 acres of wooded land near a small lake, no neighbors in earshot. Built something that looked nothing like our suburban past. No picket fence. No crown molding. Just space. Silence. Control. I reconnected with people she never knew existed. A retired friend from my Navy days. A contractor I once mentored who offered me a stake in his expanding business. A woman from a community garden who knew how to listen without pity. Real conversations. Real ground. No curated lives. One afternoon, while trimming the edge of a raised bed I'd built by hand, my phone buzzed with a message from Mia. She still doesn't get it. I stared at the screen for a long second, then replied, she doesn't have to, because the point was never to make her understand. She thought freedom was a prize at the end of betrayal, something shiny she could hold up like a trophy. But real freedom, the kind she begged for in whispers and wine-fueled laughter, it doesn't come with applause. It comes with isolation. She wanted to run first, wanted to escape the life she painted as a cage. She didn't realize I had already slipped the lock. She wanted freedom. I gave her the version no one comes back from.